Good evening and welcome to the Monday, May 5th, 2025 meeting of the Arlington County Planning Commission. I am Commissioner Tenley Peterson, Chair. Tonight, the Commission will consider a GLUP amendment, zoning amendment, and rezoning for site plan 479 at 3033 Wilson Boulevard. Before we begin, I would like to share a few logistical points for all participants joining the meeting remotely and in person. Presenters and speakers joining the meeting through Microsoft Teams, please keep your phones and other electronic devices muted until you are called upon by the clerk. Please turn off the sound to any devices around you to minimize interference, and keep your cameras off until the clerk announces your name to speak. When called upon, you must unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon that is in the meeting command bar at the top of your screen. The moderator nor the clerk has the ability to unmute your mic. Once you have spoken, please mute your mics and turn your cameras off. If you are dialing in by phone to join the meeting, press *6 to unmute. Public speakers will be called upon by the clerk at an assigned time. Pre-registration with email confirmation is required to speak at tonight's hearing. We are not able to accommodate additional speakers. All speakers, virtual hybrid, will receive 2 minutes to comment as an individual. Only representatives of a county board-appointed advisory group, committee, and/or commission will receive 3 minutes to comment. A timer will be displayed on the screen if speaking virtually, and speakers in person will follow the timer stationed on the podium. Audio of tonight's meeting is available via phone. If commissioners, presenters, or speakers lose internet connectivity, please reconnect by phone. However, if you are dialing in by phone and unable to see the screen, we will provide an audible 30-second warning to wrap up your comments. You will be muted when your time has expired. The meeting chat is active for presenters or commissioners who need technical assistance only. Please do not use the meeting chat for discussion, public comment, questions about agenda items, or requests for further information. All public comments must be shared verbally for the record during the assigned public testimony period. Tonight's meeting will be available for review through the YouTube platform. A link has been provided on the Planning Commission's website 24 to 48 hours after the adjournment of the meeting. Although the meetings will no longer be a live broadcast, the meetings will be available for review with closed captioning on Comcast Xfinity channels 25 and 1085, Verizon Fios channels 39 and 40, 24 to 48 hours after the adjournment of the meeting. Lastly, this is a public forum. Tonight's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county website via a link to YouTube as stated. All information associated with tonight's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act requirement. And I just wanted to confirm the attendance of our virtual attendees. We have Commissioner Steinberger. Is she? No, she's going to be in person. She's just running a little bit late. I think Commissioner Guevara is supposed to be joining us virtually. Is she on yet? Okay, well, she'll be joining us a little bit later. So, Madam Clerk, can you please call the first item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our first item and only item for the evening is GP-367-25-1, the General Land Use Plan, the GLUP Amendment. B is ZOA-2025-1, an ordinance to amend, reenact, and recodify the Arlington County zoning ordinance. Rezoning REZN 24-00003, which is the rezoning, and SPLN 24-00003 for site plan 479. We have Peter Schultz, our planning staff, to present this item this evening.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. As you stated, this is 4 applications for the 3033 Wilson Boulevard redevelopment project. General Land Use Plan, an Arlington County zoning ordinance amendment, a rezoning application, and a new site plan application. 4 sets of actions that are associated with the project. The proposal, and to summarize, and the developer will go into much greater detail, is to remove the office building that was constructed by Wright in the 1980s and retain the parking garage, footings, and building core, and replace it with multifamily residential with ground floor retail, a density of about 4.75 FAR, 309 dwelling units, and 6,000 square feet of retail. Maximum height of 8 stories, which we will discuss later as part of the zoning ordinance amendment, tapering to about 40 feet in the rear with a penthouse of 9 feet. In addition, the public plaza The developer will be renovating and landscaping the public plaza, fulfilling sector plan guidance for public seating, a goal of 40% tree canopy, and achieving a balance of pedestrian flow, passive use, and landscaping. To refresh everyone's memory, the location is in Clarendon on 3033 Wilson Boulevard. There's a current 75-foot by right office building that was constructed in the mid-1980s. It meets all of the by right zoning regulations, including provision of parking, 3 levels of underground parking, and the height limit. The existing site is zoned both C3 and R5. We'll see there is a small sliver that is zoned R5 that has underground parking garage underneath it. Site is located diagonally across from the Clarendon Metro Station. I would like to call a special attention to the sites in the north, where the property abuts, as you will see in the zoning map, R5 zoned district, which includes a mix of single-family homes, a dentist's office that has been there for about 50 years, and a religious facility. Just to remind everyone, existing conditions, I would like to point out at Wilson and Highland, there is a public plaza, and behind it a private plaza when the building was constructed in the mid-1980s. That private plaza does not have a public easement on it. All the area forward of the coffee kiosk is public. It was a former street that was closed to create an extra plaza across from the metro entrance in the 1980s. That is maintained by the county, but where the kiosk is and behind is entirely private. Policy guidance we'll be using, as alluded to about the developer's work in the public plaza, is the sector plan. The sector plan was adopted in 2006, and it was updated in 2022, but that was on the western portion along Washington Boulevard and 10th Street. This subject site was not updated during the sector plan update process. I should mention that the Clarendon sector plan also codifies its guidance largely into the zoning ordinance. So recommendations of the sector plan also end up also being regulations in the zoning ordinance, and site-specific guidance for this site is indeed codified in the zoning ordinance. As you will see here, anytime I say see Clarendon sector plan here, these have also been mostly codified into the zoning ordinance. For instance, a maximum height of 75 feet, which was the existing permitted height under C3 zoning at the time, a requirement for a 10-foot step back along Wilson Boulevard and part of North Highland Street. One of the notable features, this site was an office building, and the Clarendon sector plan designated this site as a minimum 60% commercial use, prime office as they called it. However, we'll be talking about other plans and policies that will affect the use mix at the site. Streetscape widths, also codified in the zoning ordinance. Build to lines, I would like to point out that the build to line adopted in the Clarendon sector plan and in the zoning ordinance eliminates this private, where the area is of this private plaza area. So the sector plan intends that the entire site be built out to the back of the street lines along Wilson Boulevard and North Highland Street. And also frontage types are also codified, including the locations of parking and loading and other services. Other major guidance for this site adopted just in November 2024 is the County Board policy on the transformation of commercial office buildings. This, a quote from this, the programmatic and regulatory approaches to effectuate elimination and repurposing of obsolete office supply shall be considered a public priority, and it is underlined in the original, alongside other county priorities and goals. Other policy guidance for this site, the Affordable Housing Master Plan, the Master Transportation Plan and its bicycle element, which post-date the Clarendon Sector Plan, and the Community Energy Plan. The first item in front of your consideration is an amendment to the General Land Use Plan, and there are two proposed changes to the General Land Use Plan map. The first is to extend the Clarendon Revitalization District to encompass the entire site. Currently, that boundary bisects the property. The second is to designate the entire site as medium-density mixed use. Currently, the southern half of the site is designated as medium-density mixed use. Should note that a special GLUP study, according to our policies, was not required for this area because it is in a sector planned area, and that furthermore, the site as you saw in those earlier slides, was always intended for the entire site to be used for redevelopment. And therefore, on our own motion, the county board's own motion, the GLUP changes were authorized to be advertised by the board. So we, as far as we're concerned, consider these cleanup to the GLUP change. The zoning ordinance amendment for the site, however, the applicant did apply for a 10-foot change to the maximum height of 75 feet. And I would like to point out the 75 feet height is permitted by the current by right C3 zoning regulations. The developer had requested a 85-foot height limit, and so therefore the request to advertise and the applicant is requesting. What we have proposed is to remove the step-back requirements on Wilson Boulevard and Highland Street, and you will see later how throughout the review of this process, staff and the SPRC pushed the applicant to have a significant taper to the single-family detached house in the R5 district behind, with a height of no higher than 65 feet, with a maximum height of 85 feet at the front of the property. The zoning ordinance amendment continued. I will mention that at this particular site, there was no requirement for a taper in the sector plan. There is specified guidance for properties east of North Garfield Street, and there is also a tapering guidance to areas west of this, but however, this site in the current Clarendon sector plan and in the current zoning regulations for Clarendon had no tapering requirement whatsoever, and a 75-foot building height was permitted right up to the property lines. However, what the applicant is proposing, and this was a very important part of our discussion, there is a single-family detached house 10 feet from the common property line. The developer had been asking, and we'll see this later, a rezoning of a tiny strip of land from R5 to C3, and that was because there is an existing garage vent that will be reused, as is the entire garage, in the rear of the property. Staff's analysis, we pushed the applicant and the SPRC to have a two-step taper wherein the full height of the building is more than 60 feet from the common property line from the applicant. 25 feet, the building starts 25 feet from the property line, where a by right 75-foot building could be 25 feet from the property line. There are two tapers and a change in coloring that taper more naturally to the single-family detached property. And as I alluded to, there is a rezoning request, and that is only because there is a 2,700 square foot R5 zoned portion of this site. It has been owned by the applicant ever since the property was developed, and a portion of the parking garage is located under this site. Because this was a by right development, staff is not sure whether it was approved either in error or consciously by the zoning administration. However, today we would not say that there should portion of a parking garage in a residential zone supporting a commercial C3 property. So there are no new structures proposed to be put in this area. As you'll see in the applicant's proposal, this area is a 25-foot setback area that will be landscaped, and the venting that is in the ground will be hidden from adjacent view as it is today. This is just to give you an idea of the architecture and form. On the Garfield Street side, where the building comes closest to a R5 zoned property with the two-step taper, you will see on the other side on North Highland Street, there is a taper, but a smaller one because the site is buffered by a surface parking lot, and the building being used is a dentist office adjacent to this property. In lieu of a 10-foot step back, and this is occasioned largely because of the developer's reuse of the footings and the columns and the building core. The developer has designed a 10-foot notch vertically from the third floor to the 8th floor along Wilson Boulevard, and also very strongly defined belt courses at the 4th level and 6th levels to give at least an architectural view of a change of a change of scale and a change of material above where the cornice would have been in a historic building. Just want to go over, I will not read all of these to you, but as I said, the Clarendon Sector Plan codifies many of its recommendations into a special section of the zoning ordinance 9.2. Therefore, the developer is asking for certain modifications from the zoning ordinance, many of these occasioned by the developer's reuse of the garage and the existing footings and where the existing core is located, as well as after the Clarendon Sector Plan has been approved, staff's request for a protected bike lane along Wilson Boulevard, which necessitated moving some of the building ground level and second level back, as well as the requirements that staff would have of trying to maximize the total streetscape width as recommended in the plan and in the zoning ordinance. There is, however, one pinch point on Wilson Boulevard due to an existing building column. And in this illustration, you will see this existing building column will be holding up the building above it and disguised with a green wall. The pinch points, I should mention here, does not come out of a clear sidewalk width or from any landscaped space. The applicant will be giving us an 8-foot clear sidewalk entirely around the site, which actually exceeds the sector plan's recommendations, a 6-foot planting strip. What is being taken out of is a variable width of a shy zone, the private shy zone, which is not being dedicated to the public. The sidewalk will be a public easement, including, of course, the all the way to the landscaping. But the pinch point is not going to interfere with any public movement or that clear sidewalk width or any public rights. Site features and amenities include probably the most notable of this is that an outdated office building will be transformed into 309 new dwelling units just across the street from Metro. They're retaining the existing parking garage. Protected bicycle lane is being provided on Wilson Boulevard. That's above and beyond what the sector plan requires. A renovated public plaza, which will be maintained by the applicant. Currently, the public plaza is maintained by the county. It is a public property. It will not be a POP, not a privately owned public space. The streetscape will be brought up to current standards, again with the pinch point created by retention of the garage and footings. Public art, with site plans, the usual public art and utility, underground utility fund monetary contributions, transportation demand management requirements, installation of the in-building wireless network for first responders. Again, all of these things are not required in by right development. We require them in site plan development. A base affordable housing contribution, monetary or on-site units, and additional density is being requested. 8 on-site committed affordable units will be provided on this site, 4 2-bedroom and 4 1-bedroom, one of which will be type A, and a LEED Gold certification that meets compliance with the Green Building Incentive Program and the specific Arlington specific credits that we require, so that we have modified in our Green Building Incentive Program from the standard LEED in order to make it more Arlington-centric. We believe this site plan advances the goals of the Clarendon Sector Plan, the 3 highest goals: quality public realm, interconnected open spaces, and a rich mix of uses. The heights taper up, or if you will, taper down, or from adjacent lower density residential areas. The general land use plan and zoning ordinance amendments facilitate this site's redevelopment as envisioned in the sector plan. And it also replaces a nearly vacant, outdated office building with a multifamily residential building providing housing next to the metro station, while providing significant environmental benefits from the reuse of the existing underground parking garage. It has been to, on April 24th, the Transportation Commission, where they recommended approval 7-0. However, encouraging the developer and staff to work during the civil engineering plan to fortify, as they termed it, the protected bike lane. And on May 1st, the Housing Commission recommended approval of the site plan, 11-0. Therefore, we recommend adoption, that you recommend to the county board to adopt the 4 ordinances facilitating this development. We are here after a public process, including an online engagement and 2 live site plan review committee meetings and 2 other commission meetings so far. County board on May 10th. That is the end of my presentation. I would like to mention that I have Rob Gibson from the Department of Environmental Services here and Matthew Ladd from the CPHD, who also sits in the cube next to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schultz. And now the applicant presentation, please.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? All right. Is that better? No? All right. Can you hear me? And the green light's on. Yeah, there you go. All right. Great. Can you, I'm sharing my screen. Can you see the presentation? No? Oh, sorry. It's just my nice picture of Lisbon, for some reason, showed up. All right, there you go. Is that better? Yep, there you go. All right, well, good evening, everyone. My name is Matthew Weinstein. I'm a land use attorney at McGuire Woods. We were happy to present this exciting project to you all tonight. I'm joined by some leaders from the owner-developer Carr Properties. We have Tom Argiers, who's the development director, Austin Holderness, who's the Chief Development Officer, Jason Bakanik, Senior VP, and then we are joined by Andy Chakowski from SKNI, our architect, and virtually we have Valerie Hockman, also from SKNI. We have Carlos Mendia from Bowler, and I think we have Chris Cabot from Galloway, and we probably have Trini from Parker Rodriguez. And just for your awareness, Carr does own several properties in the general area, including Arlington, 2311 Wilson Boulevard in the heart of Courthouse, and they also own Midtown Center in DC, and they have other properties in DC, Northern Virginia, Austin, and Boston. So I'll do a quick project overview for you. Peter covered a lot of this, but one thing we really focused on in this project was engagement. We filed July 1st, 2024. We met with Lion Village's executive committee that exact same week, gave them a preview of the project, took their feedback, went through the resubmission process, of course, and then we met with Lion Village again, the full Civic Association right before SPRC 1. We met with the Clarendon Courthouse Civic Association right before SPRC 1. We had a great SPRC 1 and SPRC 2. We reached out to the president of Lion Village right after we resubmitted post-SPRC and pre-commissions. Didn't hear anything back, but then we had Transportation Commission, Housing Commission, and we're here today. And just to orient you again, heart of Clarendon, the intersection of Wilson, Garfield, and Highland, mere steps away from the Clarendon Metro. The building was originally built in 1987 and is functionally obsolete. And of course, we are proposing to knock it down, keep the garage, and build 8 stories of we're gonna have an 8-story building with 309 residential units and ground floor retail. Project overview: the existing building is about 2.7 FAR on a 1.4 acre site. It is 7 floors. It is 95 feet with the existing mechanical penthouse, 75 feet occupied. We're proposing 309 units, 8 floors with 85 feet occupied, and a parking count of 324, which seems quite high. But of that, we're going to have a parking ratio of 0.85 for residential, and we're going to have approximately 49 extra parking spaces, which will be used for storage for residents, parking spaces for nearby residents from other buildings to use if they need additional parking, and just generally having more flexibility for parking. And this will hopefully result in less overflow parking into the Lion Village neighborhood. They were particularly happy about that when we briefed them on that topic. And we're proposing about 300,000 square feet of density, which is a 0.475 FAR. Project benefits, as Peter highlighted, we're turning a nearly vacant office building into tax-generating residential mixed use. We're enhancing street activation for retail and residential. Our bonus density is going to largely come from housing affordability. We're going to obviously do the base contribution of approximately $950,000 to the AHIF, most likely. Choose that option. And then for the CAFs, we'll have 8 committed affordable units. 4 of them will be 1-bedroom, 4 of them will be 2 bedrooms, and they'll be the larger 2-bedroom units. And one of the 8 CAFs will be Type A accessible. We're also making some infrastructure improvements, including a new bike lane, protected bike lane along Wilson Boulevard, which is a priority for DES and also under the Master Transportation Plan. We're improving pedestrian and traffic signals infrastructure to modernize the intersection of Garfield and Wilson. eliminating curb cuts on North Garfield, and the North Garfield and North Highland street width design and integration improvements will have additional parking space as well. And we're going to improve the public plaza at the corner of Wilson and Highland, which will show you some renderings and show you how that's laid out. For sustainability, we're going to have compelling carbon reduction by maintaining the garage. It's going to really be a real environmental benefit. The project will be more energy efficient than the existing office building, 24% below the energy code. And we're targeting the LEED Gold certification at the 0.35 bonus density level. And of course, turning vacant office into residential will provide significant tax revenue into the county as well. And I'll turn over to Tom Argis from CAR to walk through the design changes.
You have 5 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. So on this slide, you'll see here, this is one of the initial images we looked at in the massing and density studies for 3033 Wilson. This is looking towards the Clarendon Metro with Garfield Street at the foreground. Highland is hidden in the background, and you're looking down Wilson Boulevard towards the Metro. Good. Next slide. And this is the image that we came up with. So SK and I spent a lot of time looking at the neighborhood and thinking about what the architectural narrative is of Clarendon. And they sort of came up with two things. You can go to the next slide. This is an image looking from the Metro towards the building. You can go to the next slide. And this is the image at the corner. So the two things they noticed, and I'm hoping you're starting to see these, are brickwork and a sort of neo-Art Deco interpretation. So as the renderings we get closer and closer to the building, you'll see a lot of the architectural ornamentation with the brickwork they laid in to really make it feel nestled and purpose-built towards Clarendon. One other thing looking off of the Clarendon Metro, the one thing we heard time and time again was that this is the entrance to Clarendon, and so there was particular attention paid to making a strong building at the corner that was attractive as you moved through. Okay. Looking down Highland, this is the earlier version and the present version. As Peter mentioned, we spent a lot of time with staff and the neighbors talking about what this taper should look like and how it should sort of resolve itself. This was the initial submission, and this is what we're calling the two-step taper. You'll notice that there are trees in the back, and we spent time with landscaping staff thinking about the fence and the landscaping buffer to that single-family residence to the north. With this two-step taper, please go to the next slide. This is the earlier version, the next version. There's sort of a happy accident that came out of the Planning Commission meetings as we realized we could use this new area above as a residential community garden for those folks who live in the building, and we thought that really tied into a strong story of community and sustainability at the building. Here's the floor plan. As Matt and Peter both mentioned, we were keeping the below-grade garage. It is a very large garage. It takes up the entire plot, so from essentially property line to property line, both towards the single-family residence to the north and towards Wilson. The existing, for those of you familiar with the neighborhood, the existing entrance to the office building is at that corner of North Garfield and Wilson, and you'll notice there's 3 elevator cores there. Those are the existing elevator cores. And so that really sort of precipitated us keeping the entrance where it is now. Working down Wilson, following the Clarendon Retail Action Plan, we've gone ahead and provide retail, turning around the corner, walking past the public plaza. You'll notice the loading dock. We spent a lot of time with staff and the SPRC group talking about where the appropriate location is for that loading dock. You know, one thought was maybe it should be next to the existing garage entrance, which you see all the way to the right in the upper right-hand corner. One thing that we sort of realized as we're working through the process is what doesn't show up across on this plan is right across the street from this loading dock entrance is North Hartford Street. And by keeping the loading dock here, it sort of served 3 purposes. One, you're away from the single-family residence, so you can keep noise down. You're right next to the retail base. You're further encouraging the retail user to make sure that their delivery trucks use the loading dock as opposed to parking in the bike lanes. And 3, the access to North Hartford actually improved the turning radius for the 18-wheelers. So you'll notice one of the loading bay docks is a 40-foot bay per the sector plan. Next slide. This is an image of the garage. As we've all mentioned, it's large. There's a lot of parking. It originally has about over 400 spaces by the 1985 zoning code. With the new garage, it's 324 spaces. And what having these excess spaces have allowed us to do is to program, luxury top-of-market amenities for the residents. So what you'll see on the left-hand side there is a bike room that has generous layout. One of the things we heard from the community through the process is that they're interested not only in bike storage, but multiple storage types for bicycles, for children's bikes, for children's scooters. And so we're able to offer all of those in that bike room. Just across the drive aisle, you'll see there is a freight elevator. And so through the process, we also realized it probably would be a good idea to bring that freight down. And so that offers folks who ride their bikes two ways to get there. You can either take the ramp at the far side of the garage, or you can come off the street through the loading dock and take the freight right down and cross the one drive aisle. Next slide. So as you mentioned, there's 324 total spaces. At a 0.85, that's about 263 residential spaces. And you've got some extra spaces for visitors, retail, plus additional spaces. We're going to be providing 4% day one EV charging spaces and 15% future. And again, as we were looking for alternate uses, we thought maybe we could provide luxury storage for the residents of the building. And so we have that on both P2 and P3, which you see there, and there's an image representative of it. Here's an image of the plaza. You go to the next slide. So we spent a lot of time talking with staff and DES and the landscape team to sort of protect three things: the 8-foot sidewalk, the tree canopy, the landscaped pollinator plants, but then also the retail dining space, because what we heard loud and clear through all of the SBRC processes, the community enjoys this plaza and really wants it to maintain a space for the community. I got close.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sustainable.
Sure, I'm happy to go through. Let's jump to the sustainability side. So that's the street side. Peter already covered the streetscape sections. So real quick, I'll just touch on the 3 points up at the top. With the 0.35 green building bonus density we're targeting, we're going to provide that with a building material reuse, which is obviously keeping the below-grade garage, the social equity with an operations and maintenance staff, as well as I mentioned, the 4% day one and 15% future-ready EV car charging. The rest of the items on this slide are all of the standard Arlington green building site plan conditions. I will mention, because it's a compelling story at this site, by preserving the below-grade garage, it's 160,000 square feet. We're sequestering the equivalent carbon to 11,000 acres of U.S. forests over the course of a year. And by providing the top 5 floors of the building in wood frame as opposed to pretty standard and traditional cast-in-place concrete, which is about 190,000 square feet, we're sequestering the equivalency of carbon to about 5,500 acres of U.S. forest in 1 year. So we think this project, on many levels, tries and strives and achieves a lot of Arlington's desires through the sector plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. Madam Clerk, are there any public speakers?
Yes, we have four public speakers this evening. I'll be calling in person first. June O'Connell is the first person, followed by Bernie Byrne.
Oh, there's I thought you said there was something here. It's okay. Don't start me yet. Good evening. I'm June O'Connell. I've been a resident owner of a condo in the RB corridor for 36 years and one in Clarendon Courthouse for 25 of those years near this building. I'm here tonight to ask you to defer this until either the June or the July county board meeting. For one thing, it would help the Housing Commission, which really didn't have a chance to meaningfully engage. This is a stick building, expensive still. It has not the full parking cost. So with a little time, they might be able to massage it for it, whatever. But I know that's not your direct patch. So for you, I am here to ask you to come up, to instruct them to come up with a marketing plan. Just having 309 units doesn't mean there'll be 309 apartments on the market at some time in the future. I came here 4 years ago and to the Tenant Commission, the Housing Commission, the Aging Commission, because applicants were increasingly, with existing buildings, applying with a minor site plan to convert apartment units to 30-day hotel units. In addition, in that process, we learned that they can offer as many corporate rentals, meaning 30-day plus, with furnished units. So they can offer basically long-term hotels. They can come with a minor site plan for actual hotels, and often those are the larger units. So I think it's time for you all to tell the staff that you would like to see a marketing plan of when and how they intend to put these units on the market. Second of all, and I went to the board, and the board said, oh, the Planning Commission cares about this. The Planning Commission asked to meet with the work requirements for it. They said they would do it in the following September, and maybe they didn't unless you all can report on it. Because in February, 4 years later, I went to the county board, which has 3 new members from 4 years ago, and I said, what happened? And Matt looked at the ceiling, Mark looked at the ceiling, Taka shrugged, Susan and Maureen sort of said, we know the issue, but they didn't seem to have any idea what happened 4 years ago. So I ask you to do that and get site plan conditions. And I'm sorry I can't stay, but I'm flying out tomorrow. Thank you for your attention. Safe travels.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connell. Our next speaker is Bernie Byrne. Actually, he's online. Mr. Byrne?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. This will be an architecturally bland project. The project curves near the Wilson Boulevard North Howard Street intersection are the building's only notable architectural features. They will reflect Conrad's architectural history. The applicant should curve all the building's corners, not just one, if it's not too late. Although this project will have green walls and some planting at green ground level, it mostly lacks biophilia. The building needs a green roof and/or rooftop solar panels and green internal open spaces. All sides of the building should have green walls, not just those along the Wilson Boulevard frontage. Native flowering vines should hang down from the roof ledges and balconies. They should also climb on trellises from the ground and ledges. The plaza at the corner of Wilson Boulevard and Highland Street should have more plantings and less pavement. The applicant has recently submitted a revised conceptual landscape plan that shows all potential shrubs, ground covers, and perennials. The plants include common milkweed, Asclepias syriaca, which thrives in Arlington's natural areas and is favored by monarchs because it feeds many of its caterpillars. Although I have not yet reviewed the entire plant palette, all plants appear to be native to Arlington and the vicinity. The applicant will prioritize non-cultivars, but will consider for cultivars to provide a diverse plant palette when they provide increased disease or drought resistance, or will grow to a more appropriate size and form for their locations. This is acceptable. In addition, protect all plants from trampling and dogs using low fencing or elevations. Basically, this changes where the plant palette looks quite good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Byrne. Our next speaker is Romeo Arvalo.
Good evening. My name is Ramiro Arevalo. I've been a resident all my life of Arlington, a graduate of Glen Carlin, now known as Campbell, Washington Lee, and this Saturday, American University. I'm here because as an owner or next of kin for a description of Columbia Heights Lot 3 and Lot 4 as recorded in Deed Book 804 at page 411, and Lots 5A and 6A as recorded in the Deed Book 1499 at page 534 for 110 units for a total of 4.537 acres and 197,659 square feet. He's also a founding team member of the World Central Kitchen and received a phone call during COVID from my mom, the homeowner, that a developer was coming in and purchasing all the apartments. I believe he's now, as of last month, we were told in talks with you at the county. He uses the county every month in a meeting, telling us that it's a done deal. but unfortunately it's now reaching 4 years where up to 12 people, including my mother, are waiting for payment. This is a violation of Virginia code. Every month, we're told by this developer that he's dealing with the county board. Last year, it was Amazon didn't have money. I'm a member of the Real Estate Investment Trust at American University, oversee $1 million, thanks to Charlie Nielsen, CEO of Washington Property Group. Does some pretty good buildings in Bethesda. And we continue to be violated and ask that developers don't use the county's name in our meetings or bamboozle seniors waiting now 4 years to be paid. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Chad Berwick, followed by Joan McIntyre. Ms. McIntyre, you can wait until we call for commissions and committees. You good?
Hey, everybody. My name is Chad Berwick, and I'm here this evening representing the Clarendon Courthouse Civic Association. I had the pleasure of participating in my first SPRC process as part of this request, and wanted to come before you all as our SPRC representative for this project to express some of the topics that our Civic Association discussed. As we all know, Clarendon is a vibrant and sought-after neighborhood known for its urban energy, walkability, and proximity to transit. It has become a popular choice for professionals, families, and young urbanites. Our Civic Association has a long-running survey of our community where citizens can express the issues most important to them. 3 of the top priority areas have been consistent over time: connecting with neighbors, multimodal transportation, and the environment. Related to this request to redevelop the site to be residential, we believe it makes sense in this situation. While Clarendon has historically consisted of a mix of uses, we understand that the soft office market has shifted development ideas from building office space to building more residential space. We believe that adding housing is much more desirable than a mostly vacant office building. We do not have a strong concern about the height being proposed and do not think it's unreasonable for the developer to ask for an amendment to allow this parcel to be up to 85 feet tall. Regarding the requested density, we would like to hear more about what community benefits the applicant plans to provide in order to make up the difference between the 3 FAR recommended. The applicant is striving for LEED Gold, which would provide them with the additional 0.35 FAR, but this is still quite some ways away from 4.75 FAR being requested. We would like to see the applicant work with the county to enhance the existing public plaza, provide protected bicycle infrastructure along Wilson Boulevard, which I think we've heard is confirmed, but we would like to second the Transportation Committee's comment on fortifying the bike lane as much as possible, and also to provide a protected bicycle facility on North Highland Street. We are happy that the applicant is taking into account sustainability goals by reusing the existing parking garage. With that being said, we believe that the amount of parking provided for the office building in the existing garage is likely more than would be needed in this development. We believe that the applicant should consider further reductions to the amount of parking provided and leverage the existing parking spaces for other uses like a bike room. We heard from that just then that they're doing that. Is that time? Oh, okay. Similar to how other residential buildings, parking garages work in the area, we would like the applicant to consider using the first floor as paid public parking, with the bottom parking floors being used for residential parking. 0.85 spaces per unit was too high for being so close to the Clarendon Metro station and the bike lanes, but it sounds like they've implemented our suggestions to open it to non-residents. One additional concern that was brought up was related to parking was as it relates to the loading dock location. I was going to bring up some points we discussed on this during our internal discussions, but I believe the applicant has answered these concerns. We reviewed the massing diagrams provided and show the concerns that county staff has regarding rear tapering and step backs. This was before kind of the options that we saw come up. County staff stated that the Clarendon sector plan proposes 10-foot step backs along Wilson Boulevard, but no step backs were provided originally. I know we now have the notch. I can't comment on what the Civic Association believes on that because I haven't spoken to them after the notch. We would like the applicant to consider the impact of complying with the sector plan on this, and generally would support some step backs. Along the rear of the project, facing the R5 neighborhood, we additionally wanted the applicant to consider the impact of introducing further stepbacks below the 7th floor. At the second SPRC meeting, the applicant presented some options for stepbacks on the backside of the building and support these. An additional consideration that some members had was the inclusion of 3-bedroom units, which I don't believe are being proposed. That's kind of an argument we're having within the Civic Association at the moment. Lastly, we understand the developer to have proposed a sidewalk width of less than 20 feet at some points, which is out of alignment with the guidance in the Clarendon sector plan. Anyway, we look forward to welcoming new neighbors and generally support the project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much to our public speakers. Madam Clerk, do we have any commissions to speak to us tonight?
Yes, we have Joan McIntyre with C2E2.
Good evening. I'm Joan McIntyre with the Climate Change, Energy, and Environment Commission. We have reviewed the project. We actually weren't able to participate in the SPRC project process, but we have reviewed it. Overall, we assess this as a good project, but it could be better. Using our checklist, we've scored it at 74, which is a bit higher than we get on most projects. Now, while it's going for LEED Gold, but looking at the LEED scorecard, they're just a few points short of platinum, so would encourage them to meet that. And it also might be a good candidate for other certification like FIAS Zero or Zero Carbon certification. We particularly like the inclusion of the life cycle assessment. As part of that, we'd really like to see that in all of the projects. Again, as they noted, between the reuse of the parking lot and the use of wood frame, they're seeing it's a 60% reduction in atmospheric warning. But again, we would also suggest that they include, that they would, on the deconstruction of the building is to make sure that they're maximizing the amount of materials that are shifted for reuse or recycling. Also use FSC certified wood and other sustainable materials. They are going for, say, it's 98% all electric. Why not go that extra mile for and make it a truly all electric building so that it would operate at zero emissions? The energy efficiency is, they're committing to 24%, that's the requirement, and 80 of the Energy Star, but looking at the energy model, they could really do better in that, and actually Energy Star as high as 92, I believe. So, again, opportunities for making this a very energy efficient building. Then on the is just to also look at heat pumps for hot water, continuing to pursue that to get kind of maximize the energy efficiency. And then on the EV charging, really look for them to go for at least 50% of EV chargers. It's really the direction of the future, and it would future-proof the building and in fact help accelerate the shift to electric vehicles. Now, we very much appreciate a lot of the biophilic elements of it, the green walls, the green roof, the shaded plaza, tree canopy coverage, and actually the community garden. Very nice. And actually really appreciate them having they have a reduction in the urban heat island impact. Again, we haven't seen that elsewhere. Would really like to see that in other projects as nothing. So. To some, this is a good project, but it could be better, and we would really encourage them to make this an exemplar of environmental sustainability.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. McIntyre. And do we have a Transportation Commission report?
Yes, we do. This was considered at the Transportation Commission's meeting on April 24th. The vote was 7-0 in favor of the project. The discussion covered topics such as sidewalk width, parking, the bike room, the bike lane on Wilson, the loading dock location and the reconfiguration of Garfield Street. The sidewalk width was not of concern. The pinch point was a logical one, given the retention of the parking garage. It was definitely worth that. That pinch point is worth it, given what is being preserved. Parking itself, while it does have a higher parking ratio than we otherwise would care for in something that is so close to a metro station, one thing we're very happy about was that excess parking could be used by other buildings that go up in the neighborhood so that they don't have to build as much parking in whatever new development comes up. That's something we've been looking at for quite a while, and we've looked, to see it actually happening is really pretty good. Same thing, keeping a parking garage rather than tearing it completely down was also a real positive. The bike room is big and has multiple uses. That was fine. We really would like to see the bike lane on Wilson be fortified, similar to what's further down toward Roslyn. The loading dock location made a lot of sense to us. Rather than having it up toward the neighborhood, having it down toward Hancock Street, make it easier for trucks to get in and out, which encourages its use. And as mentioned, it's right by the retail use of the building. So again, that'll help encourage off-street loading rather than stopping in the bike lanes. Garfield Street will be reconfigured, so it will be narrowed somewhat there, and a bump out will be put on Wilson Boulevard in Garfield. That's also an improvement, as the reduction in the number of curb cuts. Garfield will lose a curb cut. That will reduce traffic on that residential street that is generated by this building. And of course, going from office to residential tends to change the traffic patterns and reduce the amount of traffic going in and out. Overall, the Transportation Commission felt this was a very good project, and as I mentioned, voted unanimously to recommend it. It did only vote, however, note on the fourth of the county manager's recommendations, as that is the only one that was relevant to the Transportation Commission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There were no motions about updating the plan, though. I thought one of our public speakers may have alluded to that. No, just to vote to approve. Okay, perfect. And Commissioner Striner for a SPRC committee chair report.
Yes. Well, can anyone hear me all right? Okay. Well, this is my first SPRC that I chaired, so I want to thank everybody for dealing with my learning curve on this one. But this was a good project to work on. We had two very fruitful discussions. The first one really focused on the height of the building and the setback in the back of the building. And I'm not going to go into immense detail because everyone else has pretty much covered a lot of what we talked about. But it seemed like every time there was an issue, we all kind of talked about it and went into the different elements of it, and the developer and staff and everybody came together and came up with something better than we had before. The community garden in the back was something that I'm really proud of. The plaza is something that has come out of this that I think looks really good and adds a lot of life to the community. But there was a lot of good, thoughtful, respectful discussion on the various elements of this project, and I think it's turned into something that I think we can be proud of.
Great, thank you. Okay, so now we can open it up to discussion. I have my standard agenda for our discussion, unless Commissioner Striner, you recommend something different. Okay, so that would include site location, land use and site design, building form and architecture, transportation, sustainability and biophilia, public spaces, community benefits, process phasing and construction. We don't have to spend any time on some of these topics if we're all okay with them. Does anybody have any comments or questions or anything else they want to add to the agenda? Okay, so then we'll start with site location, land use, and site design. Any clarifying questions or comments? Okay, fair enough. One comment.
I want to know, I'm a Lion Village resident, so this building is something I'm very, very familiar with. I will say I will miss losing that existing plaza in front, but I fully recognize it's totally private property. There was no easement on it whatsoever. They have every right to redevelop it, and that's what they're doing. We're getting more housing units out of that. So, while as much as I will definitely miss that aesthetically, I think the trade-off, the massing is appropriate for this site as far as what I can see. The other massing issue, I don't know, is this where we get into the step backs? Is that part of it, or what do you think?
Yes, site design.
Okay.
Oh, well, building form is next, so we can.
Again, as SBRC revealed, the Clarendon sector plan didn't cover this particular site, and that was really an oversight because nobody ever, when the Clarendon sector plan was done, nobody believed that building was going to be rebuilt. It was brand new at that point, so that wasn't too much of a surprise, but it was definitely an oversight. Thus, that's why it didn't have any guidance for that, the back of that building. That being said, I'm very happy that as part of this process, we got step backs. If you go further down Wilson Boulevard, actually, the other car building that was referred to does have notches in that building, and that was deliberately put in. That was not originally in that plan. Working with the neighborhood, those notches were put in. It's a successful building, which is why I also felt and agreed that having that step back on this building is also appropriate, because there are other sites up and down Wilson bordering Lion Village that the Clarendon sector plan would encourage step backs. We see in other areas along the corridor where we have the step backs where a building meets the residential neighborhood. So I think it was a real win that this project worked out, that we were able to get those step backs along Garfield Street. I thank the applicant for working with the neighborhood and getting that in there, and I think it fits the spirit of what the Clarendon sector plan is trying to do. So anyway, I won't go any further, but I wanted to make sure we gave a little bit of context to this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Lantelmi. And then we can naturally transition to building form and architecture. Any comments or questions about that? Okay, there you go. Commissioner Bagley?
I'm not sure where this question goes, but I'm going to ask it now since it was brought up by the Lion Village Civic Association. The sound from the pool, the way things are constructed, how will you address that so the neighbors are not necessarily hearing noise at odd hours? Thank you.
So what shows up in the plan, can you hear me?
Not really.
Can you hear me? Hello, test, hello.
There you go.
There we go, okay. So what doesn't show up in the renderings but shows in the plans is that we're planning for about a 6-foot planter, which is going to incorporate some larger trees and bushes. So that, first of all, will cut down any noise that happens at that terrace. In Arlington County, you're required to have a lifeguard for a pool, and so that terrace is predominantly for the pool, and so you can only be at that terrace when there's a lifeguard on duty. And so that will be mostly the summer months, and will just be when the lifeguard's on duty. And so the operational hours, I mean, I don't want to put them in firm writing, but I suspect they're going to be between 10 and 6 when there's actually sun out there.
Thank you. And just as a suggestion, as a former Civic Association president, it behooves the Civic Association, if you feel there's too much noise or there's issues, I would hope that the applicant as well as the neighborhood will continue a course of dialogue after wall construction, everything else is going on, so that this really is the project that we all want it to be and that the neighbors are good with it too. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just ask a question about the building form architecture, kind of unit size. I noticed you don't have any 3-bedroom units. You have 2 bedrooms plus den. I personally really like to see 3-bedroom units. It just gives more families the opportunity to live in Arlington and along the metro corridor. So can you speak to why you don't have, usually we see a few in a building and we don't have any here?
Is it working? Okay. So one of the unique peculiarities about this site, it is actually narrow. So for a typical layout, for if you're building on a greenfield site, you're going to want a sort of bar that's about 70 feet. So you've got 30, let's say roughly 30 to 32 feet for the unit, 5 to 6 feet for the quarter, then 30 to 32 feet for the units opposite. And so when you have the 70 feet and the 70 feet, that sort of leaves you with whatever's left in the center. And typically you want a depending on how tall the building is, sort of a setback angle from 1 to 1 to 1 to 2. Otherwise, the courtyard becomes super cavernous. And so what we have on this site is we have narrower bars plus a 60-foot courtyard. And so when you naturally sort of shrink everything, you sort of reduce the aspect ratio for you to be able to get 3 bedrooms on the facade. And so you need to end up taking up some of the interior space where you have it at the corners. And so if you look at the plans, the 2-bedroom dens are actually at that bottom right-hand corner if you're looking at the plans where there is some natural depth. But just given the constraints of that site, it was challenging to figure out a way to make a true 3-bedroom work.
Thank you. Any other questions on building form or architecture? Commissioner Bagley?
One of the points brought to our attention by the Lion Village Civic Association was there were no drawings of the garage entrance. Maybe I missed it. If so, could you show it? And if not, could you make sure that they are aware of what that looks like and maybe have that available for the county board meeting? Thank you.
So the garage entrance, as I hope I mentioned before, is staying where it is today. And so we would pull up the plans, but it's essentially, if you're looking at the plan in the upper right-hand corner, but we'll be sure to point it out at the county board meeting.
Okay, next topic, transportation. Any clarifying questions or comments? Commissioner Bagley?
Okay, so I heard in your presentation that you're willing to do what both civic associations have asked about sharing parking or whatever. I guess my question is, how does that come about? And are you working with the civic associations or local buildings to try, or will you be, to try to make sure that this is the best use of in an area where parking is like really premium for the businesses and stuff, and even for neighbors? How do you envision that this process will work?
That's a great point. We have extra parking, as we said. It's about 50 extra spaces. So we can meet with the civic associations. We can meet with neighboring property owners. We can advertise it because as a building owner, we're incentivized to rent out those spaces. So we will absolutely put together a marketing plan to lease out those spaces. So we're naturally incentivized to do it.
Great, thank you. And so civic associations back there, you heard that, so I'll leave that up to you to also communicate with them about. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gibson had a comment, I think.
Just for the commission to consider, most site plans, unless permitted through the site plan process, cannot just rent out spaces to non-users of the building. So we have modified the conditions permitting that explicitly for the spaces which are not otherwise required under the 0.84 minimum parking ratio. And then they would implement a parking management plan which shows how they would rent those out, and that would be kept on file with the zoning administrator.
Thank you. Commissioner Steinberger.
I just wanted to reiterate my support for Commissioner Bagley's comment, and I'm glad to see us being forward-thinking enough. Well, there is a delay. I'm glad to see us being forward-thinking enough to recognize that in the site plan conditions, because if we have a benefit here, and one of the things that I'm very pleased about with this building, I guess this technically goes to the prior comment or prior topic, that we are reusing the parking, because I think that's the energy savings from that is really important. And so with that, having maybe more parking than we air quotes need for the building, I want to make sure we're using that and recognizing that benefit. So I'm glad we're thinking in that direction. If there's a way that not just working with the civic associations, but with local businesses or something that we can sort of like incentivize that, or I'd like us to think creatively about how to best use those spaces and benefit the community, local shops, what have you. Let's not limit ourselves to just sort of like, $1,000 for the parking space for the month. Let's think if there's other things we can do that might take that a step further. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Striner.
So this is more for the comments from the Transportation Commission. I was curious, what does fortify mean in the context of the bike lane here?
We wanted something more than striping, something more than maybe those little bumps.
Yeah.
Something more than maybe just those plastic bollards.
The flex posts, yeah. No, I'm with you on that.
I do have a follow-up question about that, which is, as somebody with a very large trike that is very heavy, if I get into that protected bike lane with these big cement fortified barriers, I'm like stuck in the bike lane until there's another opening. So what is the length, and does it make sense to have little kind of gaps in the concrete so that if halfway down the block I need to get out, I can, or is it short enough that like it's reasonable? I can just wait until the end of the block? Or if somebody has a very heavy e-bike and maybe isn't able to physically lift their bike out of the bike lane if they needed to. I mean, sometimes when I'm driving down the street, I'm like, oh, I need to turn onto that street, so I kind of veer through the plastic bollards. There's not really a turn that they would do that here, so maybe it's not necessary, but I just wanted to raise it, that somebody with a big old heavy bike might feel trapped in a lane with fortified.
So I think we're looking at implementing the best practices for bike lanes. Right now, our standard implementation is the curb stops and then the bollards. One of the benefits, now there are trade-offs here. The bike lane will be fortified by the parking, which is a good part of things. This is not going to have an active travel lane directly adjacent to it. And then, depending on what the design ends up being, I would say that the design that we typically use with the medium-sized bollard or curb stops and the bollards is probably better for smaller bike lanes because that allows the buffer to somewhat be used a little bit by the bikes in addition to the striped or the marked bike lane. So there's, I think, some trade-offs that we'll evaluate over time and see what the design is. In this case, I think for heavier bikes that may need to get onto the curb, it's still going to be best to do that at the intersections where we have the ADA ramps that would really help facilitate that entry into the sidewalk zone and adjacent retail uses or the residences.
Okay, thank you. Any other transportation comments or questions? Okay, then sustainability and biophilia. Commissioner Bagley.
Yeah, I would just ask that any possible idea of repurposing doorknobs, anything that is in the building that you tear down so that the majority of it doesn't wind up in the landfill, is just better for future generations, your own grandchildren, et cetera. So I just want to echo again Commissioner McIntyre's thought on that. Also, congratulations on a 74 score on the checklist. We don't hear those very often. And just if you could address the platinum versus the LEED gold that she alluded to, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I think hopefully you can hear me. I think that's a very accurate observation that we are fairly close to LEED Platinum. I will comment that the last few points are extremely difficult to achieve, and that's why they're in the so-called maybe column on our scorecard. So we're extremely comfortable making the commitment tonight at LEED Gold, but I can assure you that we do look to grab those last couple extra points whenever we can. In fact, we just certified a 1 million square foot LEED building in Boston, Massachusetts last year that we're very proud of. So we kind of know the path forward when we dig into it a little bit later during design. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if you do get those extra points, we will then use your project as an example for future developers to emulate. So please do try to get them. Commissioner Patel.
I actually just want to congratulate you on the bird-friendly glass. It's not very often that we see projects with bird-friendly glass that goes up as high as the one that you are proposing here. Commissioner Bagley used to talk about bird-friendly glass all the time a few years ago. And now I guess it's not on her list. Doorknobs are, but I will raise the bird-friendly glass. So congratulations on that.
Commissioner Bagley.
I was chastised at times for speaking up for the birds, so I appreciate Commissioner Patel's comments. So I do want to congratulate you on the community garden as well as also the 40% tree canopy. We hardly ever hear that despite new plans and everything for same. And so as somebody who does marketing and in the real estate business, it seems to me that when you go to market this building to get folks in there, that you really ought to make this a big part of the building. You're going to find that perhaps your tenants will be a little bit different than, typical tenants have been, in the sense that they really do believe the spirit in which all of this stuff is being delivered. So good luck with that, and thank you.
Commissioner Patel.
I'm not sure, can you hear me? Okay. I'm not sure if this is the right place for this, but I do want to hear an answer, maybe a response to Ms. McIntyre's concern about the EV chargers and how many there are on site.
Currently, we have, we're committing to 19% readiness, and at delivery of the building, of that 19%, 4% would have chargers at a minimum. But we will have the infrastructure, the conduits, and the electrical capacity to expand up as the building leases up or as we see demand increase. I can't remember exactly what her comment was in terms of what she wanted to see on day one.
She wanted 50%.
50?
50.
Well, I would comment on that, which is that we usually enforce like a 4-hour limit in the charging stations. So even on the plans, if you don't see 50% chargers, that certainly by no means indicates that 50% of the cars in the garage don't have access to that parking space. We do not reserve those EV chargers for an individual resident. Like I said, they have to be shared on 4-hour shifts. So I think if we shift the paradigm a little bit to think about the accessibility for 50% of the residents, we're actually probably very close to that capacity.
Thank you. So I have a question for staff just about the community garden, the landscaped areas on the north side of the building that kind of acts as a buffer to the neighborhood, and the green wall and all of the biophilia in general. Are those part of the site conditions, that those have to be maintained, that the roof, that the community garden will be up there as a site condition? Okay.
The condition, landscaping conditions cover all of these rooftop things, whatever's been shown on plans, yes.
Okay, perfect. And then one of our public speakers commented that you didn't have a green roof. I know you do kind of right next to the community garden. Can you remind me, are the other parts of the roof green? Is there a potential for them to also be green roofs? What percentage of your roof is green, including the community garden?
So the upper roof, the high roof at the 8th floor, it is not a green roof. It's just a highly reflective roof. As you work your way down, obviously you saw the 7th floor, a portion of that will be green roof. That's not the community garden. And then as you work your way down, there's also an interior terrace that's at the 3rd floor that will have a portion that's green roof. And then obviously you have the bioretention planter in the back, plus the very generous planters within the courtyard.
Okay, and any options for solar panels on the roof?
We will be looking at potentially solar ready, but we don't have plans to put solar on the roof right now.
Okay, solar ready would be great. Okay, any other comments on sustainability or biophilia? Commissioner Bagley.
To Dr. Burns' comments, could you make sure that the plantings and everything really are specific for Arlington, specific for this region, native as we see it now, that type of thing, any of the concerns that he mentioned? I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, then we will move on to public spaces. Any clarifying questions or comments? Commissioner Lantelmi.
Staff can confirm, but I think today online was the invitation to the public process, comment on public for this space. I think I saw an email about that.
Oh, no, this space is being designed with this site plan, so it's not a
So
separate
that's some other project?
process, yeah.
Commissioner Lane, for the record, Matt Pfeiffer.
25, oh, it's down the street. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, community benefits, clarifying questions or comments. I will just ask a bigger picture question about community benefits. So first of all, thank you very much for providing on-site affordable housing. That's fantastic. We love to see that. Half of the units are on the larger size, which could accommodate some smaller families. That's great to see. Question for staff. All of our affordable housing agreements with developers expire after 30 years. And so is this just like we're kicking the can down the road, like in 30 years the county board's going to have an issue to deal with, or are we just assuming there's always going to be enough development, so there's always going to be a churn, or that there'll be naturally the price, if we keep just building housing, the prices will naturally come down and they'll be market affordable? I'm just wondering, we always see this 30 years, and I'm like, what happens in 30 years when suddenly all of this flips to market rate?
That's something that of course, the Housing Division is, discussing through their current plan process, too. 30 years has always been our standard. However, we have gone longer with affordable housing developers, have gone to 60 years, and of course, Barcroft up to 100 years, and I think that works for them because of their financing. But yeah, it's something that's being examined by our Housing Division.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments about community benefits? Commissioner Steinberger.
Sorry, pulling the thread that Commissioner Peterson raised. So it's obviously like 30-year cycle, different projects are going to hit their 30-year mark at a different time. So is there some critical mass of a large number of projects hitting their 30-year mark when? Do we have that on a radar at all?
Commissioner Steinberger, I don't know if this mic is on.
No, it's a delay. We talked about that.
Excuse me, Matt Pfeiffer for the record, Planning Division. I think that is not data that we have offhand, but it's certainly something we can look into and provide for you.
Housing Office does track.
Okay. I think I and maybe other commissioners, at least Commissioner Peterson, if not others, would be interested in sort of kind of seeing like, I don't do charts, but I envision a chart that indicates sort of when like a critical mass of sort of like this many projects, like what's going to hit, so we can kind of understand when we might see some of those rolling impacts. I've always sort of been under the assumption or presumption that it's sort of staggered enough that it's not some sort of, that like it kind of tracks itself and like addresses the problem to a point, addresses itself. But I have no reason to think that that's a reasonable assumption now that it's been raised. So I'd be curious about the data. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then our final topic is process, phasing, and construction. Commissioner Bagley.
This one is for staff first. So should this project be approved by the county board, what is the likelihood, one of our speakers who had to leave asked about, how would it be within the realm of the possibility that this would come in as a minor site plan for, a long-term hotel or some sort of a hotel issue? Just out of curiosity, I have that question first for staff.
Just from a pure process answer, and I think, you probably would want the applicant to answer what they plan to do. They are permitted to apply for a minor site plan amendment to do so. However, that does not absolve an applicant of any commitments to affordable housing. They can't get out of any of the community benefits through which they earned their density. But yes, that is something we've been grappling with over several years now.
Thank you. So I guess my next question is to the applicant. Do you have, and I know that you don't have a crystal ball, but do you have, to the neighbors' concern, do you have, plans, or do you see down the road that you would make this in part a hotel or anything?
We have zero desire to make this a hotel. We don't like hotel development. We're not in hotel development, and we only develop office and apartment buildings, so no, we do not plan to convert it to a hotel.
Thank you. Then my second is more like a comment to the applicant. And during the construction process, and I guess leading into it and throughout it, none of the construction-related workers are here tonight. None of them have heard any of the stuff that we've talked about, any of the SPRCs, the online engagement, none of the neighbors, anything like that. It's really, it behooves you greatly for tremendous communication throughout the process to keep everybody happy, to keep everybody safe. It's a very busy area there. But again, oftentimes I see, even as I'm walking through my own neighborhood, and people know that I'm on the commission, I was a civic association president, and they're like, you know, when we go and talk to the construction workers, they've been warned the neighbors are crazy. So I would prefer to see, as we move forward with these projects, this is a great project, please be sure that the communication is such that the workers on the ground, not you guys, know all about the stuff, the nuances, what's expected, so it is delivered as everybody thinks that it's going to be tonight. So thank you.
The one thing I'd point out too on the construction is we don't have below grade excavation by saving the garage. And a lot of times with a neighborhood, excavation is the worst part of construction. And so there's not going to be the dust and excavation materials going through the neighborhood. So, and it'll be a shorter time frame as well by not having to do the excavation.
If I can just ask a follow-up question about Commissioner Bagley's conversion to hotels question. I remember during the pandemic, there was, I think, an apartment that was asking to be switched over to a hotel, and I didn't think it was a minor site plan amendment. I thought it was a major site plan amendment.
I misspoke.
And therefore we heard, okay, so it's
It is
a major.
And they go to the planning commission. If it is more than 5% of the units, that it's a major, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's what I wanted to confirm. So we would have the opportunity as a commission to review it, and then it would go to the county board to figure out if that's appropriate. So, great. Any other questions or comments? One more, and then we will go to voting.
This is to staff about the speaker who spoke of something that we're not talking about here tonight from the sounds of it. So I'm wondering if somebody can, this was about Columbia Pike and something else. I don't know that it had a lot to do with our project, if anything. So I'm wondering if maybe somebody from staff can figure out maybe what they were talking about and follow up and figure out who they need to speak to so that their concerns can be aired appropriately. Thank you.
Yes, we'll try. The gentleman has already left, but we'll look at the video and see. It sounded like, yeah, off Columbia Pike, you're right.
Commissioner Steinberger.
I would just also maybe clarify for that, or for anyone who's still watching this, that while the county board does have open public comment on sort of any issues at their hearings, Planning Commission does not operate that way. We do like to connect people with resources that we can, but that's not generally a forum that's going to get your matter addressed, because we handle the agenda and we respond to what the agenda is. But thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so let's move to motions. Commissioner Striner, do you have your motions, which?
I don't have them ready.
I think I have.
Somebody
them.
else have them ready?
That's fine.
What was that? I said I don't have them. I could read them, but I don't have them with me. Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Jim. Okay.
And you start, the Planning Commission recommends
Oh,
to the
yes.
county board to.
Okay. I move that the Planning Commission recommend that the County Board adopt the attached resolution to approve the general land use plan amendment from low residential to medium density mixed use to incorporate the site into the Clarendon Revitalization District for an area located at 3033 Wilson Boulevard, 1209 North Highland Street and 1418 North Garfield Street, RPC number 15-067-003, -005-006, -007, -033, and -036, as indicated on the map, in the attached map, attachment A. All four?
No,
Okay,
a
just-
second.
Oh,
Okay, Commissioner Patel seconds? Was that the full? Yeah, just the first one, okay. Any discussion on the item?
Everybody turn on your mic since it's a delay.
Okay, then we will go to a vote. Did Commissioner Guevara join us? Okay, so we have 7 tonight with us. Okay, Commissioner Lantelmi.
Aye.
Okay, Commissioner Patel.
Aye.
Commissioner Steinberger.
Aye.
Commissioner Bagley.
Aye.
Commissioner Striner.
aye.
Commissioner Robertson.
Aye.
And Commissioner Peterson is aye, so 7 to approve. Okay, Commissioner Streiner, their second motion.
All right, number 2. I move that the Planning Commission recommend that the County Board adopt the attached ordinance to amend, reenact, and recodify the ACZO Section 9.2.5 to revise Map 1 in the Clarendon Revitalization District to increase the maximum building height from 75 feet to 85 feet, to reduce maximum height from 75 feet to 65 feet for the northeast corner of the site, and to remove required stepbacks on Wilson Boulevard and North Highland Street for the property located at 3033 Wilson Boulevard, 1209 North Highland Street, and 1418 North Garfield Street. RPC number 15-067-003-005-006-033 and -036, as indicated on the attached excerpt of Map 1.
Second.
Commissioner Patel seconds. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, then we will go to a vote. Commissioner Lantelmi.
Aye.
Commissioner Patel.
Aye.
Commissioner Steinberger.
Aye.
Commissioner Bagley.
Aye.
Commissioner Streiner.
Aye.
Commissioner Robertson.
Aye.
And I also say aye, so 7, the motion is approved. Is there a third vote, Commissioner Streiner?
Got 2 more.
2 more, okay.
So I move that the Planning Commission recommend that the County Board adopt the attached ordinance to rezone from R5 one-family restricted 2-family district to C3 general commercial district and related update to the AZCO map 13-1 to amend line A to encompass a portion of the property located at 1418 North Garfield Street, RPC number 15-067-036 is indicated on the attached maps.
I second.
Okay, Commissioner Patel seconds. Discussion? Okay, let's move to a vote. Commissioner Lantelmi.
Aye.
Commissioner Patel.
Aye.
Commissioner Steinberger.
Aye.
Commissioner Bagley.
Aye.
Commissioner Streiner.
Aye.
Commissioner Robertson.
Aye.
And I also say aye, so it approved with unanimously. And our final vote.
All right.
Well,
buckle in. This is going to be a longer one. I move that the Planning Commission recommend that the County Board adopt the attached ordinance for Site Plan 24-00003 to construct up to 309 residential units with ground floor commercial use, with modifications to permit less than 60% commercial use for additional density, reduced residential parking ratio, one-way drive aisle width, required loading spaces, location of loading, density exclusions, retail clear height, distance between building entrances, total streetscape width on Wilson Boulevard, and other modifications necessary to achieve the proposed development plan located on 3033 Wilson Boulevard, 1209 North Highland Street, and 1418 North Garfield Street. Same RPC numbers as before, subject to the conditions of the attached ordinance.
Do I have
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Patel seconds. Any discussion?
I have one thing I would just want to note. The Lime Village Citizens Association did submit written comments, which all of us at the dais here have read. Some of those comments, concerns were raised. These were lingering concerns that the Civic Association still has about the project. That document will be put into the record that will be available to the county board and of course to the applicant and the public. I just wanted to know that will be out. That will be included in the record. Thank you.
And do submit it to the county board as well in time for them to also be able to consider that too. And if you want to speak publicly about it, I think there's the 2-day sign-up requirement for the county board as well. Okay, ready to vote? Okay. Commissioner Lantelmi.
Aye.
Commissioner Patel.
Aye.
Commissioner Steinberger.
Aye.
Commissioner Bagley.
Aye.
Commissioner Streiner.
Aye.
Commissioner Robertson.
Aye.
And I also say aye, so it passes unanimously with 7 votes. Any other motions?
I seek unanimous. Oh, well, can we move on to PC minutes?
We are about to. I just wanted to say, from my personal perspective, I'm really excited to see a vacant building be replaced. That's a big win for our commercial resiliency efforts. I'm excited to see more housing being brought to my neighborhood. I'm excited that it is a sustainable building. The Green Building Incentive Program, we don't see everybody always taking advantage of that program. So I'm very thrilled about that, as well as the reuse of your existing garage. That's great for our environment. On-site affordable housing, as a commission. We often are asking for that, so bravo. If there's any way you can do more of that with your base affordable housing contribution, we'd love to see that. Love the biophilia, but of course, as our public speakers and our C2E2 representative said, if you can do even more, we'd love to see that. Would love 3 bedrooms, but it sounds like it's logistically not possible. And yeah, if we can encourage you to get those extra points for LEED Platinum, we'd all be thrilled. But thank you very much for your project. Thank you to staff for all of the work you've done. Thank you, Commissioner Streiner, for your work on your chairing your first SPRC. And thank you to our public speakers who came out and decided to spend their Monday evening with us. We really appreciate it. We are recruiting new planning commissioners, so if any of you were excited by tonight's proceedings, please consider applying to join us up here at the dais and be part of these decisions. So thank you. We are now ready to move on to our commission business. We'll start with the approval of the meeting minutes. Madam Clerk sent those around late last week. I sent one small edit earlier today. So I would like to ask my colleagues for your unanimous consent to approve the minutes. So moved. Mr. Pfeiffer, do you have any staff updates for us? Mr. Pfeiffer? Mr. Pfeiffer?
Apologies, Madam Chair. You were asking me about a
Staff
staff
updates.
report. We have no staff report.
Okay,
this month.
thank you. Love to hear it. Okay, Commissioner Steinberger, LRPC report, and any possible rosters you may have.
I don't think I have any rosters, or if I do, I'm not aware of them. But we did have a productive conversation last week on the master transportation plan updates. Many commissioners joined us. It was interesting, and it happened.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And your-
Next meeting, nope, what? Yes. I do have a roster.
Steinberger, this is
Yes.
LRPC?
LRPC, right.
I do have a roster, actually.
I do have a
It's for
roster.
the comprehensive plan update, yes.
Okay.
And I'd be happy
I have a
to-
roster.
Okay.
Be happy to put that up on the screen if you
Yes,
bear with me.
please, put my roster up. Sorry.
Gosh.
Did y'all email me about that? I missed it.
I believe Rana
Is this an
did
SPRC one, or is that-
last week.
Okay, my bad. Sorry.
Not a problem at all. Yes, I do. Just
Okay, which project is it?
Comprehensive plan.
Okay.
I have it, Matt.
So do you just want to do the language for, okay.
there it is.
That depends. I
There it
can't
is.
see that. Oh, wait.
We have it in our inbox.
So we did one roster for the comprehensive plan update of the LRPC meeting. When is this meeting being held?
May 27th.
May 27th. Please be there. I seek unanimous consent for the roster on your screens.
Okay, so moved.
Great. And we're meeting on May 27th to discuss the comprehensive plan update roster.
Okay, Commissioner Bagley, SPRC report and possible rosters.
Yeah, I sent the SPRC report out earlier today. Again, thank you for those who have chaired and co-chaired. A little heads up about SPRC attendance. We were forced to cancel an SPRC last month. We have since made tremendous corrections so that that will not happen in the future. But just to go back through a little bit, for, especially for chairs and co-chairs, please coordinate amongst yourselves. The initial announcements will go out via staff, and reminders, last-minute reminders, please stay in touch with staff to see who has RSVP'd so that you know that you've got adequate quorum. And also, moving forward, when you're asking for attendance, please also ask if you're attending, will it be in person or virtually, because then you have to go back and ask again. But just to watch that, and we as commissioners and chairs can then go, like just as a reminder, we can send out reminders. So just so you know, thank you for your cooperation on that.
Could I get one clarification on that from staff? For these SBRCs, who qualifies as being part of the quorum?
Anyone on the adopted roster.
So that includes a civic association member,
Correct.
planning commission members, other commissions.
It has to be 3 members of the adopted roster, including 1 planning commissioner in
Thank you.
person.
And
In
of course, that'd be the chair, so.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and do you have any?
Yes, we do
rosters?
have an updated roster for Inn of Roslyn, and right? Is it- Yeah, Anna Broslin. So I seek your unanimous consent for that approval.
Question, what does the yellow signify? Are those the changes?
The yellow is the changes, yes.
Did we not have some of the commissioners listed?
So
It's a
this
very old
roster
roster.
was actually adopted in 2023 because
Oh,
the
so we
project
did
was
it,
put
so
on.
it was before. Okay, I
Correct.
didn't
For
realize
my
it was that old.
time, yeah.
Okay, I just was like, that's weird. Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
so I hear no qualms with the unanimous consent, so moved.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Sterner, do you want to do ZOCO and MTP together?
Yeah, sure. ZOCO,
Executively.
we're still waiting for, we still have not had a meeting in a while. We're still waiting for new material to come in. As far as the MTP goes, I was not able to attend the LRPC that went over it, but I will be back when we have more deliverables from it. Obviously, they're doing the road show around the different commissions at this point, so I'll let you all.
I was at that for both Transportation Commission and Planning Commission, and it was very well received by both committees. Not surprisingly, a lot of work went into it. The DHS did a very good job of presenting it and explaining what was going on and how this is a process. We're just at the beginning of that process. But the comments that were received from the public and from all the commissions and from your group were show up in what they're presenting. So that was noted by at both meetings. Thank you.
And I will say that that is expected to come before the full planning commission in the May, June, or July timeframe. It will not be May.
Yes. Okay. Commissioner Weir is out. Commissioner Steinberger, PFRC. Oh, sorry. Commissioner Bagley.
Nothing to report at this time.
Okay, I think that's it. Have we done everything we're supposed to do, Madam Clerk? Okay, well, thank you to staff, the applicants, public speakers, also to my colleagues, because this is our 4th meeting in 8 days. So to anyone who has attended any and all of those meetings, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Tonight's hearing summary will be presented to the County Board at their upcoming meeting on Saturday by Commissioner Patel. This meeting is adjourned.